As he watched Samuel walking majestically ahead, beaming with smile and free, Frank felt his eyes almost popping out from its socket in his horror of horrors, and felt a sting of betrayal. He couldn't believe that his friend, with all his influence, hadn't ensured he could cross as well. It was at that moment Frank named the wooden bridge in his mind, the Bridge of Betrayal. Once upon a time, in a vibrant and bustling town, there lived a young man named Frank. Frank had a close friend named Samuel. Samuel was a complex character, sometimes a good guy, sometimes a bit mischievous, but never dangerous. He was just a normal guy living life as it came, and despite their differences, Frank and Samuel got along exceptionally well. They shared laughs, stories, and even business ventures. Frank sometimes financed Samuel's electronic gadget business, and in return, he was handsomely rewarded as an investor. Cool, isn't it? One day, they decided to visit Samuel's business at a lava market and to get something there also. They boarded a commercial bus together and eventually dropped off at the nearest bus stop, from where they took a commercial bike to the canal that led to the market. At the canal, there was a wooden bridge that everyone had to cross to enter a lava market. This bridge had a toll gate where people were required to pay a fee to cross to the other side. Samuel had gained some influence at this bridge over time as a celebrity bridge crosserman. He was so well known that he could cross the bridge 99 times out of 100 in a day without paying a single dime. If there were ever an election for the chairman of the bridge, Samuel would surely win without any shadow of doubt based on who he was. As they approached the bridge, Samuel, with a confident smile, casually informed Frank that he never paid to cross. Frank, expecting to benefit from Samuel's influence, smiled in return, thinking he too would pass without paying, as he hinted his desire to him so that he could influence the outcome. When they reached the toll gate, Samuel greeted the tollman warmly. They acknowledged him with respect and let him pass through without a second glance. Surprisingly, he never put up a word about his friend to them. He acted like they had not known each other before at that critical moment as Frank stood with the tollman and his outstretched arm, eager to collect his money. Maybe in Samuel's mind he wanted his friend to behold his glory and influence at the bridge, or was it just mere negligence from him, or could there be more reasons to his action unknown yet to Frank? Frank, following closely behind, attempted to cross as well. However, he was stopped and asked to pay the toll. As he watched Samuel walking majestically ahead, beaming with smile and free, Frank felt his eyes almost popping out from its socket in his horror of horrors, and felt a sting of betrayal. He couldn't believe that his friend, with all his influence, hadn't ensured he could cross as well. It was at that moment Frank named the wooden bridge in his mind, the Bridge of Betrayal. Disheartened, Frank slowly reached into his pocket, paid the toll, and crossed the bridge. When he finally caught up to Samuel at the market, he poured out his frustration. Samuel laughed, thinking the situation was absurd, and tried to explain himself, but Frank couldn't shake the feeling of being let down. On their way back, the scenario repeated itself. Frank paid the toll while Samuel crossed freely like a freeman from Freetown, basking in his influence. From that day on, Frank never forgot what had happened at the Bridge of Betrayal. He often teased Samuel about how he had abandoned him, leaving him to fend for himself. At first, Samuel laughed it off, but as time passed, he began to feel guilty. He realized that perhaps he had indeed failed his friend at that moment. The more Frank joked about it, the more Samuel understood the weight of his action, and understood he deserved to be isolated and quarantined on a forsaken island and permitted to drink only the tears of a mermaid once it strikes 12 midnight for a mental recalibration and realignment, for not putting any effort for his friend. As funny that may sound, he knew he had to make it right. Not long after, another opportunity presented itself. Frank's laptop developed a fault, and he needed to get it fixed at a lava market. Samuel offered to accompany him since he was heading that way for work. As they approached the infamous bridge, Frank instinctively reached into his pocket to pay the toll. But before he could do so, Samuel stepped forward and introduced Frank to the tollman, insisting they let him pass without payment. The tollman, respecting Samuel's influence, allowed Frank to cross freely like a freeman. This time, as Frank walked across the bridge, he felt a sense of liberation. He was no longer burdened by the memory of betrayal. Instead, he felt the warmth of true friendship. Samuel had redeemed himself, showing Frank that he was a reliable friend who was willing to learn from his mistakes and grow as a person. From that day forward, Frank began to reconsider the name he had given the bridge. It was no longer a symbol of betrayal but of redemption and the strength of their friendship. And so, legend has it that the bridge came to be known as the Bridge of Good Friendship, where both friends had learned a valuable lesson about loyalty, forgiveness, and the journey of becoming better people.